Hello, and welcome to the Pinkfair. Today, we have another video essay about Star Trek and its legacies. Let's begin with the rarity of Star Trek games. Star Trek games are rare, and I like to think it's because the people who have them hold on to them because of how rare they are. Also, Steam only has garbage Star Trek games on it that are either ports of mobile games or ports of really old ones that are like 32-bit. I have a physical copy of Legacy, but it's for the Xbox and it is lesser than the PC version. I also used to have a very stripped-down Wii version that was essentially just the skirmish mode with a very loose, galaxy-conquering story. This was known as Star Trek Conquest. Of course, it's very important to know that these were Bethesda games. There were 3 Bethesda games made for the IP. They were known as Star Trek Legacy, Tactical Assault, and Conquest. However, there was a game made before them known as Encounters, which was made by 4J, that shares some of the aspects of the future Bethesda games. Other than the Bethesda games, there have been a great many Star Trek games, dating all the way back to 1985. However, we will be focusing on the ones that I know of and can make an informed opinion of. What are some examples of Star Trek games? After Bethesda lost the rights to the franchise, there weren't many games released. However, one of note was simply called Star Trek, a game from 2013 set in the Kelvin timeline, where you play as Kirk and Spock dealing with the Gorn threat. At the time, this game wasn't very popular, and neither was the Kelvin timeline as a whole. However, I actually enjoyed it back then, despite the game's confusing at times nature. Think Lego Star Wars games from the old days, puzzles with no clues. The combat experience was amazing though. If I had to compare it, I would say either Gears of War or Mass Effect would be its closest resemblance in terms of how it's played. One thing a lot of these one-off games lack is space combat, which is disappointing to fans like me, who enjoy a good balance. One of the oldest that I am a fan of is called Star Trek Bridge Commander. In Star Trek universe, there is a device called the holodeck/holosuite. This device allows for the physical reality around you to become a simulated one. In this game, you play as a commander, simulating battles via many classes of starships, almost like a training simulation. For the skirmish mode, that is. There is a story mode, however I have never watched or played it, and couldn't tell you anything about it. Suffice it to say, Bridge Commander is focused on the space side of things. So what are some available options for Star Trek in the modern landscape? Luckily, we recently had a major release for a game called Star Trek Resurgence. Resurgence is a mainly ground-focused storytelling game that is based on the Telltale format of Blank Will Remember This. I just have to say that this is the best Star Trek story experience that I have had in years. I can't wait for what this new studio does, and definitely hope that they will improve on everything that they already did, and some of the things that they did wrong. But that's another video, and I'll get to that. There is a complete lack of controllable space combat in this game, and I believe that if there were, it could have been better than it already was. Similar to Bridge Commander from the year 2000, there's a game out today called Star Trek Bridge Crew. Bridge Crew is a VR game that came out in 2017, literally immersing you in the world of Star Trek. The game took place in the Kelvin timeline initially, where there was a story following the crew of the USS Aegis, a new stealth vessel created to patrol the Klingon Federation border. Like most modern Star Trek games, this one was set in space and tailored to that aspect, but once again using the bridge to control the ship. Unlike older games, however, this one has a multiplayer. where you and 3 others control the ship from specific stations. Those stations being engineering, tactical, helm, and of course, the captain's chair. There has since been DLC that adds the Enterprise D as an option to fly. Those missions typically deal with the Borg. Another good option available has actually been out for 13 years, and you're probably only finding this out now unless you've been a long-time fan of my channel. The game is called Star Trek Online, an online MMORPG where you are the captain of your ship with a custom character and even ship customization. After all these years, if you look at it objectively, you can definitely see where it could improve, and once again, that's another video. However, if you want to experience putting yourself into the universe, I would still recommend it for any Star Trek fan, as its learning curve for an MMO is very low. One game I haven't played yet is Star Trek Prodigy, the tie-in game that is, which as far as I know is a platformer puzzle game designed for kids to get into, rather similarly to the show it's based on. I might try it later in a live stream just to see what it's all about. One last side note. I just thought about this. Bethesda is making a game called Starfield. It's very likely that people are going to mod Star Trek things into it, and that there are going to be Star Trek references in it to begin with, which makes me think that Bethesda has essentially gone full circle, with this being as they are pretty much going to be making a Star Trek game again. With all of this out of the way, I wanted to say thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Star Williams. Enjoy the Pinkfair.